All right, and we're back with the program. Once again, it's Gerald coming right back at you here. And I'll tell you what, it's a great time indeed to talk pop culture. We are on the verge of one of the greatest times of the year when it comes to pop culture, and that's, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con, where there's a lot of stuff being talked about, a lot of projects being done, a lot of dates being given. I hope Marvel. So let's hope down the line there's going to be a lot to talk about when it comes to later this month, when it comes to the Comic-Con, of course. But pop culture is a hot topic. And I wanted to hear another side of the pop culture and entertainment spectrum. I wanted to hear about things that are going on within the entertainment industry that are good, but where do they need to go from here? Plus a lot of other great topics as well. And who better to talk to me than two people I've been trying to get in contact with. We've been going back and forth on a date, and we finally locked it down here as far as that's concerned. Well, I'll say this. Yes, it was a great honor, and thank you to Podbean for selecting our show as far as for one of the podcasts this summer. But along with that show is another awesome show that you got to check out. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts. It's A Gal and a Gay, the pop culture connoisseurs. And I'll tell you what, whenever I say that, I feel like we should be out on a yacht, like drinking champagne, talking about, I think Chris Evans should come back as Captain America. Having some sort of like laugh. Well, there's like some yacht rock from Sirius XM coming, like blaring on the radio or something. But they've got two great guests here. They've been so gracious to come on the show. It's Mitch Weber and Kathleen Boutwell. You know them as Kitty and Mick. You know what, you two, is just so great to have you as part of the program.
Well, thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Well, Kat, sorry.
And congratulations to yourself for making the big list that Podbean sent out. They're our podcasting platform, and it's pretty cool that we made the list for the summer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great honor indeed. And again, from all of us on both your shows and ours, we want to give a big thanks to Podbean. And your check is in the mail, but we won't go. No, I'm kidding, of course. But it is a great time to talk pop culture. Like I said, San Diego Comic-Con is around the corner. A lot of people are gearing up either their cosplay costumes or their money to buy all the paraphernalia that you can get there, or ready to get into the lines as far as for which hall or whichever seminar, which symposium that they're going to go ahead to, as far as here from whatever pop culture avenue that they like to talk about. But before we get into all that good stuff, as far as Marvel, DC, Star Wars, or whatever you want to talk about, I want to hear your thoughts as far as more, about where the entertainment industry stands, because your show, A Gal and the Gay, digs into not only some great pop culture topics, but it talks a little bit about the entertainment industry as a whole. I spoke to Dr. Matta Haggis Benfield as far as his thoughts as far as where, as an LGBTQ plus, and I'm probably leaving out a couple letters in the end, and I'm sorry for doing that, as far as the industry is concerned for gaming side, but for women and every other type of whether it's ethnic, sexual, religious background, there needs to be more to be done. But I want to hear from your thoughts, and I'll start with you, Mick, your thoughts on where the entertainment industry needs to go from here to make it exactly the kind of thing we can truly be proud of.
Well, I think just recently, I would say just in this last year, I think we have seen quite a turn into more queer representation on TV, and Kitty can talk about the representation of the women. I know Big Little Lies is one of the examples that we've talked about before, but on the queer representation side, I think Schitt's Creek is probably one of the best representations because I don't know if you've watched Schitt's Creek, but it was created by Eugene and Dan Levy.
And I just want to make sure to our radio sponsors or radio affiliates out there, that's SCHITT. So you can't say that on the air.
Right. Great clarification there. But Eugene Levy, obviously, he's a comedic genius. He's been around for decades. His son created this show, and it started in Canada, and Dan Levy plays David, and David is a pansexual. And I think what's brilliant about this show, and he created the show without any homophobia. The series exists in a world of tolerance and acceptance, and he got a little backlash at the beginning about it because people were like, "Oh, it's not realistic," but that wasn't the point. He said, "This is the world we need to be living in. I don't need to bring this up. Everyone knows how people like that are discriminated against, and how we are discriminated against." And the show is so groundbreaking, I think, in that, because a lot of times when you do see minority or queer representation in entertainment, it's their lives are in danger because they have come out to their family and friends, things like that. So this is in a world where he takes that out, and you don't have to worry about that part of storytelling, and you can be more creative. And I think this show is, now entering its 6th and final season. I think what we're going to see is that game changer, groundbreaking for the queer representation that I think other shows will start to take the lead, or and do things a little bit differently and tell stories differently than we're used to seeing.
I agree with you. Hopefully we can get a broader spectrum of that, so these stories and narratives can be told in its entirety without any type of shortcomings and without any type of hindrance by the networks. And I think this, if one thing that the streaming networks have done is they give you that type of outlet that if you cannot get your story told on a broadcast format, that these streaming outlets and these cable outlets are beginning to go ahead and push those boundaries and make it more acceptable, and not only go ahead and make it more appealing to a wider audience.
Yeah, I would agree.
Absolutely. And we saw the great things that Marvel already has done already. I want to point them out as far as some great things that they did. Obviously, Avengers Endgame, there's the climactic scene there where all the women are coming together, possibly teasing an A-Force, but that's up to them if they will go ahead and do that. As far as an all-ladies Avengers unit, I think that's probably something that could be in the works after seeing Avengers Endgame. But I want to know your thoughts, Kat, on where the industry needs to go from here. Obviously, you both have said Big Little Lies is a big reason for the advancement and causes for women, but we've seen a lot of shows in recent years help that cause just as well. But you'd like to see it also going forward even more.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think especially just in the past few years, women's issues have really come into play, and just making these strong female characters who are independent and smart, and who don't need a man to or children to make their lives complete. And I think Marvel did a great thing with Captain Marvel and all the other strong female characters they have. But I mean, like even shows like Game of Thrones, they had some strong female characters. Stranger Things, I mean, even newest season, they kind of address some of those teaching 11 that you don't need to be, you are your own person. You don't have to rely on your boyfriend or your father to tell you, stuff like that. And even addressing, there's a little subplot with Nancy and her job in this male-run newsroom. So just even addressing things like that and showing people the reality of what women do face every day. And anything in the industry as a whole, I think there's been more focus on, female writers and female directors. I mean, you have Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman. I mean, huge movie. And then
We're waiting for Wonder Woman 84.
Right.
If it ever comes out.
I know. Yeah. But then you have shows like Big Little Lies that is all women, great female characters produced by women, involved in all that sort of thing. So yeah, I think they're making great strides, but I think there still is more to do. I mean, you need more female directors, definitely. And I think, and they are starting to address the wage difference in certain actors and actresses. So, I think they've made a lot of great strides, but I still think there's some writing tropes that need to be done with, like, I know this came up a lot with Game of Thrones, but like rape is always being kind of a, this thing that happens to female characters and makes them stronger. And it's kind of a trope at this point. And, it's another one of those things that they just need to keep working on it, I think, but they've come a long way.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, you saw. I'm sure you got caught wind of Forbes' recent list of the top celebrity earners out there, and topping the list, I believe, is Taylor Swift, and there's several other ladies that are very prominent on that list. I wish I was, but if there were other ladies on that list, hopefully the bar becomes a lot better. Obviously, the success of the U.S. women's soccer team and promoting that out there, that hopefully will get the word out as far as equal pay and things of that nature as well. But I want to talk to you guys as far as what you're looking forward to as well on I guess the back end of 2019 and going forward, because as of now we're kind of in a lull after Spider-Man Far From Home when it comes to the superhero, the Marvel type deal. We're not going to be seeing anything for a little while unless Marvel drops something on us here in a couple of weeks at Comic-Con. So I'm on pins and needles for that. But what are you looking forward to as far as for the rest of this year when it comes to entertainment, whether it's on the TV, music, movie, any type of format you want to talk about? What type of things are you looking forward to the rest of this year in pop culture? Start with you, Mick.
Well, you are wearing a T-shirt that says Star Wars on it, and I couldn't help but notice because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And there's been not too much released publicly from Disney about the next final chapter in the Skywalker saga. I think that will be what really caps off the end of this year, and what's going to happen with Star Wars after episode 9, kind of like what you're talking about with Marvel. I mean, hopefully Comic-Con, I think their Hall H session is going to be 90 minutes. So I have a feeling that we're going to finally hear about this Black Widow movie that we all know is shooting. And, I think it's this movie, with Black Widow at the forefront. I think this one is long overdue, and I'm not really sure why we're getting it after the character's fate was revealed in Endgame. So I think Marvel has some surprises up its sleeve, and I think that's one thing that we can look forward to next year. Another movie I just saw the trailer for this week, you guys might have seen this, is the new Maleficent movie.
Oh, I haven't seen the trailer yet, but
with
definitely.
Angelina Jolie and Michelle Pfeiffer going at it. And I mean, I love Michelle and both of them, but it looks really good. And that comes out, I think in October, November, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're correct on that. Also, the Mulan movie finally got a trailer as well, coming out early next year. Thought that was really, really good and really got a lot of people interested in that movie as well. I mean, yes, a lot of people are saying the world is now owned by Disney. They can't be far off, because at least the entertainment world is. Disney's got a nice little stranglehold, wouldn't you say, Kat?
For sure. I mean, it is kind of funny how many major properties they own now, and how it's a little unnerving. But I mean, Disney does stuff right for the most part, so you hope that there's certain titles that they have now that they'll keep true to that, and we'll see what happens, especially now that they own X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all that. So we'll see how that goes. But
well, does it scare you both? Does it scare you that Disney has this kind of chokehold on the industry at the moment since the acquisition of Fox?
I don't know if it scares me, but I mean, it is a little concerning that one major company can. I mean, what's next? What are they going to get next? But I don't know. As long as they don't,
they pretty much have everything now, and
right.
it is. I think it's a little nerve-wracking, especially for entertainment, because they are now controlling the message that people will be receiving in different forms of entertainment. So if they, as a company, want to limit representation from women or queer representation, they can do that. Or whatever else. I mean, any kind of a group that can be taken out of entertainment. I think that's dangerous. Obviously, Disney, from everything that we have seen, they're not doing that. They're actually sort of increasing that. I mean, look at Frozen. Frozen 2's coming out, and there's a lot of talk about one of the leads being a lesbian. So. And I don't think they're hiding. I don't feel like they're hiding that fact.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think, also with the new Ariel live action coming out, and they've cast a woman of color in the part, obviously they're taking the representation aspect very seriously. And so it's refreshing to see a company do that, no matter the haters. But yeah, so I think Disney hasn't given me any reason to believe that they would ever do something like that. But again, you never know with these multi-million conglomerate companies. Right. So yeah,
exactly.
They hold the key.
They do indeed, especially since as of now, I think at least in the domestic box office, they garner close to 40%, well over 30, and I think it's closer to 40% of the domestic box office this year, and that is something very scary when all things are considered. Plus, you've got Disney Plus coming on the way very, very soon.
Right.
And well, it's all heating up right now because you've seen the wars that are coming around. Disney Plus is coming around the corner. You've seen I'm sure you see the news of what happened to The Office, and that will be leaving at some point to Universal, to their streaming service. You've just heard the news, I'm sure, about what where Friends is going to, and that's leaving Netflix as well.
Right.
So talk to me real quick. I want to hear your thoughts on where these streaming services are going and how this is affecting the consumer, because Netflix, it used to be just, okay, I got Netflix, I'm good. Now, by the time 2020, 2021, especially when The Office leaves and when Friends goes somewhere else, and there's all these different entities at play. Let's not forget Apple. Let's not forget all the other streaming services that are out even now, like Hulu, CBS All Access, and all those. I mean, it's a lot of people say it's just like having cable all over again. Could they be wrong?
No, I mean,
we just had this conversation.
We just had this conversation, and that was my concern, because I mean, eventually you're going to have to buy several different streaming services to find the content that you like and want. And then it's going to be just as expensive or more than cable. And so I don't know if that's just the wave of the future and that's how cable companies are going to go. Eventually they're not going to exist. They're going to exist through their streaming platforms. Who knows? But like, it's just, and I worry for Netflix too, because there's a large population of people who have Netflix for those old standards like The Office and the Friends and any of those old shows they want to binge. And if those get taken, like, they're left with although they have great original programming, outside of that, there's not, I mean, they have thousands of titles, but a lot of it's like just boring stuff you don't really want to watch. So it just, I think Netflix is probably really worried.
Well, as I mentioned on the show before, The Office, okay, let's say take out, Stranger Things, Bird Box, all those other great things that they've done, Black Mirror, all those great things they've done. The Office is still far and away the most watched entity on their program, and Friends is number 2, a distant number 2, but still a number 2. Right. So you're taking away your number 1 and 2 properties consistently over the course of the year off of your network. That's going to be a sign that maybe Netflix is going to hit some hard times. Mitch?
Well, and they just raised rates.
Yes.
So I think we're probably going to see another rate increase again. And I think Netflix has seen the writing on the wall. I know that I think it was just after season 2 of Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers had said something how at that time, they were thinking that maybe season 5 would be where they would hang it up. There is no way that is happening. There is no way that is happening now. Yeah, well, I don't see that happening now, especially if they're losing The Office, all these things.
Right.
Stranger Things will be the show that they are going to have to hold on to or do some kind of spin-off or something. I mean, the numbers that Netflix released this past week from the season 3, those numbers, network TV can't even get those numbers.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I heard season 4 might be their last, but you're right. Back up the Brinks truck, as Isaiah Thomas, when he was with the Celtics, was saying one time. Back up the Brinks truck, because it is time to pay the Duffer Brothers. And you're right. But creatively, you worry about where the narrative is going to go, because you have a hot property like that. It reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead when it reached highs earlier this decade of 15, 17 million plus watching per episode. And unfortunately, it's nowhere near that, because creatively and narratively, you've just run out of steam. And Stranger Things, I just watched season 3 myself and thought it was a probably the best season yet.
Agreed.
And, where can it go from here? And you're worried about where it can go from here because of the fact that you're right. If the Duffer Brothers had said, okay, we're going to map this out to this point, and now, well, we got to cash in, so we now have to go ahead and elongate it to this point. That's where you get in trouble as a property, as an entity on television and film. It's like, okay, you maybe just been grabbing for the cash too much, and narratively it really goes downhill from there. But you're right. Netflix has a lot of thinking to do about what it's going to do short and long term once those major tent poles for them leaves. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be some interesting things. But you're right. Everybody's getting concerned out there that it is becoming like cable, and that they'll have to spend $8 here, $10 here, $12 here, $8 here, $7 here, $5 here for all these different entities. And you're right. It goes back to cable. Cable's just going to say, hey, come back to us once.
Right, exactly. And I mean, maybe eventually some company will like bundle all these streaming services, and $40 a month you get Netflix and Hulu and all, and then it's again just like cable. So it's like people cut the cord for the streaming services, and now they're going to be forced to basically do the same thing, which is just, it just disappoints me.
Exactly.
It's funny because when I was a TV reporter back in 2007, I still remember doing this story, and I talked to a cable company, and I talked to people that wanted the a la carte services, and this cable company spokesperson is like, look, we're going down this path, but let me tell you how it's going to end. And it's going to end with you paying more, because all of these different networks at the time, and there wasn't streaming at that time, but they were just saying if ESPN has their own and, all this stuff, they're like, you're going to end up paying more. And so, and I think that kind of, now 12 years later, we are in the midst of it right now.
Right.
And it's very prophetic indeed. Those words were very, like you said, you could that person and that individual that you interviewed was just looking forward into the big picture, into the crystal ball, and they definitely saw that. And maybe it will circle back around into us going ahead back into cable and satellite TV once again. We don't know, but like you say, there's also could be a service that starts up that groups and bundles all this together. But then again, in all essence, that would make it cable once again.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Indeed.
So I wanted to go back to Stranger Things real quick. I think one of the best things about Stranger Things is how original it is. And I think just by the numbers that Netflix released, I think people are thirsty for something that's original. It's not people love superheroes. We all do. It's not superheroes. It's not something that's being redone. Obviously, it's taking you back to the 80s, and you sort of feel, you kind of feel when you're watching it, that this show was something that was lost in the 80s that we're just now discovering. But it's something original. And I hope that industry leaders see this and say, look, we need to give more of these independent producers and filmmakers like the Duffer Brothers. We need to give them a chance, because all this other stuff is running out of steam.
Right.
And if you're fighting with all these different services, you need to make sure you land on a platform that's going to let you have creative control as much as possible.
As long as they're not thirsty for new Coke. That's all I say.
I think it's available right now because of Stranger Things.
It is. You can go to. They have a website that you can buy it for $20. I lived through New Coke. I had New Coke at that period of time, and that's the only one deviance from the actual great season of Stranger Things was their constant reminders of New Coke and how wonderful, quote unquote, it tasted.
Right.
No, it did not taste good at all. And there was a reason why, as I looked it up the other day, that it went out in 79 days. So, This is just saying there. But yes, outside of that, there was a great season of Stranger Things, and looking forward to actually, like I said, more seasons. And like you said, even more than that, if they back up the Brinks truck at Netflix, which they might have to. They might have to indeed. Once again, I'm on with two great and outstanding podcasters with me. It is Mitch and Kathleen. You got to check out their great show. They're the Pop Culture Connoisseurs. I got to say that just so correct, best I can saying that. It is a gal and a gay. They have a great show that you got to catch up with on pop culture. They're one of the podcasts that Podbean has recommended that you listen to this summer, but it's available on all the different podcast platforms. it's been such a great time talking to you. But and I've heard your show. It's awesome. It's an awesome show. But I could say all I want about it. But I got to hear from you both you, Kat, and you, Mitch. What is it about your show, a Gal and a Gay, that really should get those people drawn in and get them listening to your awesome program?
Well, I think Mitch and I have a really great relationship. We've been friends for a very long time, but we also we met in the TV industry. We worked in TV news, and while it's not Hollywood, we do kind of have an understanding of how some things work and that sort of thing. So I think just having that a little bit of insider knowledge kind of gives us a different perspective on certain things, especially when we talk about industry things and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, we're not experts. We're just pop culture fans, and we just talk, and we love to talk about stuff. So I think that's why, if you really just enjoy talking about pop culture, listen to us.
Well, Mitch, what are some of the great episodes that you had? I mean, Kat has already teed it up for you. What are some of the great episodes that you had, and what are some of the great topics that you both have talked about?
So we are based in Kansas City and Austin. And Kansas City, a lot of people don't consider this, but Kansas City, even if it's a flyover country, we have a lot of great filmmakers and up and coming filmmakers, and we have film festivals. And Queer Eye was just here last year. They filmed two seasons here. One of the guys I work with quite a bit, he was actually one of the main videographers on it. And so we got a lot of insight into the new season of Queer Eye. And actually someone I know was actually featured in this new season coming up. And so we're going to have some interviews with him. And I like our interviews with these local filmmakers and those in the industry. We did an interview with Savannah Rogers, who is an up and coming LGBT filmmaker, and she did a TED Talk and got on Kevin Smith's radar. And she has been hanging out with Kevin Smith, and we're going to talk to her next week. And we've done some pretty fun interviews. We go to movie screenings. I just saw The Lion King today before it's released next week. So we kind of like to add, like Kat mentioned, like a little bit of the knowledge that we have and the things that we have learned, and we kind of want to put that in our podcast as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I know you probably can't say yay or nay, but can you just raise an eyebrow something if you like The Lion King or not? Okay, an eyebrow.
I can. I was telling Kitty that I can't say this. I didn't want to sit through another death of Mufasa, but I can say it was worth it.
Okay, fair enough. But by the way, James Earl Jones might just outlive us all. Just want to let you know.
I know, he might. Well, I'll be okay with.
Right?
But yes, I'll tell you what, it's going to be an awesome time. The Lion King is coming out very soon. I believe next week, next Friday, a week from Friday, excuse me, here coming up very soon, right around the corner. Before we hand it out, I got to ask you, if there's one thing that you are just eagerly, just most anticipated for. I know we talked about your various things that you're looking for down the road, but I want to know if there's one thing from pop culture that you're looking forward to the most about having on the show, having a conversation on the show. What would that one thing be? Kat, I'm going to start with you.
Like person or
anything, music, movies, television.
We are planning to interview some people involved with the new season of Queer Eye. I'm looking forward to that because it's a big show. And it was a big deal when it came to Kansas City. I used to live in Kansas City. And so it was a big deal. I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, I can tell you one movie I'm really looking forward to. In December, the new Little Women comes out, directed by Greta Gerwig. And I'm a big fan of the 1990s version with Winona Ryder. It's one of my favorite movies. And so, I'm anxious to see how it is. So I would say, I'm a Star Wars fan too, not as big as Mitch, but I would say I want to see Little Women even over Star Wars. I'm that big a fan.
Well, I will just say this. I'm kind of angry at Winona Ryder, the fact that when she did that movie to now in Stranger Things season 3, she looks substantially better than I did around the time of Little Women and around the time of Stranger Things season 3. I will just say that. I'll just say that. It's jealousy. It's jealousy,
She does
bordering on
look great,
jealous
and I'm
rage.
so glad she's back. I mean, I love her. She's always been one of my favorites. So
Oh yeah, she's a great actress. I mean, she's appeared so much throughout the years. The original Star Trek, whatnot. So yeah, it's just she's done just a great job. I shouldn't say the original rebooted Star Trek, which in and of itself sounds weird, but okay, it is. It is. But Mitch, is there one thing that you're looking forward to the most in pop culture?
Well, obviously, we talked about Star Wars at the beginning, but I'm also looking forward to the final season of Schitt's Creek. So I'm bringing this full circle as well. I know they just finished filming, and I don't know if I should say this on here, but I am stalking Dan Levy right now for an interview. And they're not going to be at Comic-Con. I was at Comic-Con last year and by myself, and I did not take. Kitty wasn't able to go, and it was rough running to all the different sessions and doing the interviews and stuff like that. But this summer should be exciting, and I think Marvel is going to drop some pretty big bombshells, I believe.
I think so too,
because we don't know what movies are coming out.
Right. I think we're going to learn a lot.
That's one thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Their release date schedule. It's been hinted upon that it will be released as far as at least the foreseeable future when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as far as what time frames it'll say, summer 2020, winter 2021, or fall 2020. It'll tell you, give you an idea of what projects are on the way, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or whatnot. I'm hoping an A-Force will also be there, because I thought that got a lot of great reception. Again, like I said earlier, during Avengers Endgame, that type of possible type deal coming together at some point in time. But the next Avengers movies, obviously, so many other stuff that's coming out from Disney, from Universal, from all the other great entities out there. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to pop culture, and I'm just so blessed that there is. I mean, yes, go ahead.
I wonder if they're going to say anything about the New Mutants movie that's been pushed back, and I would really like to see that. So I know right now it's slated for April of next year. So I don't know if we're ever going to get an answer. I wonder, So
maybe it'll be pushed to Disney Plus. Yeah. I have a feeling it will be. I mean, it was slated for August, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah, it was supposed to be this summer, but then that happened, and now it's later. So anyway.
Yeah, I think that they've taken a sign from what happened with the latest X-Men movie and the tepid returns that from it, being that it was a lame duck production. And I think from there that they're going to go ahead and say, you know what, I think we need to make a better fiscal decision. And I think as a bonus early on for the Disney Plus users out there, that might be something that might get a better reception. I mean, we've seen panned movies that would have been panned and maybe not be successful on the big screen, like the most recent Cloverfield,
right?
That being instead put on a streaming service and garnering big numbers on a streaming service because the fans felt it was something special and something that their entity could love. In fact, what was the Will Smith show, the Will Smith movie that he did, where he's a cop and a sort of like fantasy? Yes, exactly. Yeah. That movie would probably not have scored very well.
That would have bombed big time, I think.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah.
But instead, there's a sequel on the way for Netflix.
Right.
So that tells you right there that if people are becoming smarter and smarter about how they are distributing their movies, is it going to hurt the movie system long term? Maybe, because there's also the fact that movies are not getting any cheaper. So we'll have to wait and see what it does for the movie industry as a whole. But as a pop culture and as entertainment format, whether it's music, whether it's movies, television, video games, whatever, it's just the resources that you have now as an individual, it's just tremendous. And the opportunities out there seemingly are endless if we choose it to be. And I'm hoping for great success for all of them, but mostly I'm hoping for great success for you too, because your show is quite a wonderful experience. And if you haven't caught it yet, it is A Gallon of Gay. They are the pop culture connoisseurs, and you can catch their show. Is it weekly, bi-weekly? I thought it was bi-weekly, if I'm not mistaken. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
About bi-weekly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. About every 2 weeks, it is available. Just, you know what, do it. Go ahead and follow them. If you go ahead and follow them and you go ahead and subscribe to their show, it'll just pop up right there for you on virtually every available podcast format. So no matter if you have Podbean, no matter if you have Bullhorn, Podchaser, or any of the other 500,000 podcast apps that are out there, you'll be able to get a gallon of gay, and you'll be glad you did. Well, Mick, Kat, it's been a great time talking to you both. And I'll tell you what, it's just so awesome to have you part of the show. And again, I would love to have you come back on when you two have the time to talk more great pop culture topics.
Absolutely. Anytime, really. Anytime we can figure it out. I would love to be on the show. Thank you so much for having us. We've had a great time. Really appreciate it.
Well, I've had a great time as well.
And we're looking forward to have you on our show.
Yeah, absolutely. We extended an invitation to you. So
Yeah.
we'll
absolutely. Anytime, no problem. I'm a cheap date, I swear. So, absolutely. It would be awesome to be on your show. I'd be truly honored. And as a fellow, what do we call ourselves? Summer highlighted podcast, Podbean podcast. I don't know. Just as a fellow summer highlighted Podbean podcast, it's truly great to have you both of you, a part of the pop culture cosmos.